Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Scott Luton and Marcia Williams here with you on Supply Chain. Now, welcome to today's live stream. Hey, Marcia, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Scott. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Had a great weekend. We got a great show teed up, and I'm with one of the most resilient, positive supply chain pros I know. Marcia, you never miss a beat. It's like every day is a wonderful day in your neighborhood, huh?
It is.
That's good. All right. Well, we got an excellent show teed up here today, folks. Welcome to The Buzz, where every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Time, we discuss a variety of news and developments across global supply chain and business. Marcia, we got some great stories here. We're going to be touching on the visible versus non-visible aspects of supply chain management. We're going to be sharing a few tips on cybersecurity and supply chain and probably some scary data too. But hey, there's some good news and some real positive traction when it comes to women in CFO roles. We're going to touch on that. And speaking of incredible women leaders, we've got a couple of wonderful guests here. Nomsa VanderWal with the Luton Commission and our dear friend, the one and only Jenny Froome with the Africa Supply Chain Excellence Awards. Marcia, what a great show already. And all that and a lot more, huh?
Yes, looking forward to listening to their insights.
I am too. We're going to all learn a lot from today's conversation. So, two things, folks, before we get started. First off, give us your take in the comments. You may be tuned in via LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Facebook, Twitch. We had some great commentary from Twitch here lately. No matter. Let us know what you think. Just like our dear friend, Gino Pledger. Good morning, Marcia. And Scotty says, I bet he's either in North Alabama or he's on the road where he's doing big things, helping bright young minds. Those light bulbs go off, which is so critical, Marcia. Secondly, folks, if y'all enjoy the show, we'd love for you to share it with a friend and your network, because remember, sharing is caring. Is that right, Marcia?
Yes, that's right, Scott.
Words live by. All right. So, Marcia, before our guests join us, we're gonna, we're big on sharing resources, right? Sharing resources. We've got several things that we want to share with everybody out there, and starting with that said. Now, Marcia, we like to call this our almost weekly newsletter. It gives us a little bit of wiggle room in case we have a tech glitch over the weekend or something. You like baking in that flexibility into your weekly processes too?
Yes, that's great.
Hey, that's how we protect resilience around here sometimes. So with that said, let's see here. We focused on research and professional development, not exactly R&D, R&PD, we'll call it, right? We included opportunities to contribute to research on topics like S&OP and TMS tech with our friends at RateLinks. There's a great research piece coming out soon between App State and Spark 360. We got a live show tomorrow. We included information on that. We included several training organizations doing wonderful work, such as our friends at Supply Chain Mavens, Vin Vashishta, and a whole bunch more. Oh, and we included links to our live programming for this week, as well as some stuff down the road and a whole bunch more tools and resources. We're dropping the link right here in the chat. You're one click away, and we invite you to let us know what you think. Now, Marcia, research and professional development, especially that latter, professional development, it is incredibly important, no matter if you're in supply chain or no matter what part you play in global business. Constantly investing in yourself is a critical rule of thumb, huh?
It is definitely critical. Not only to be up to date, like with new challenges, but also to improve and offer better supply chain solutions.
That's right.
So that's why I think it's so critical to keep learning and keep challenging ourselves.
Great point, Marcia. Our customers, our suppliers, our team members, and a whole bunch more are all depending on us, right? And our body of knowledge that's between our ears cannot be static. It's really important that is very dynamic. Now, some of us have a bigger challenge than others learning new stuff, and I'm pointing at me. But that's where Marcia Williams comes into play, because I get some wonderful daily infographics that pop up all kinds of new learnings every day. We'll touch on that in just a second. But folks, check out With That Said and let us know what you think. Next up, the freight market. Goodness gracious, Marcia, that is rocking and rolling. Who knows where we're going next? Resources are critical here, and we invite you to check out this recently released U.S. Bank Freight Payment Index for second quarter 2024. Folks, it's full of freight, supply chain, economic observations, a whole bunch more, driven by tons and tons of data. Great resource to help folks understand just what the heck's going on in the domestic freight market. We dropped the link right there in the chat, and you can see there with the graphic, shipments, shipment volume and spend volume are two big things at the core of this quarterly report. Good stuff there. Marcia, have you figured out the domestic freight market yet? Because I haven't. Have you? Do you have the secret code to it?
No, I don't, but I want to have data, right? In particular, if we want a data-driven approach, we need to look at the data and understand it.
That is right. Got to have the data. And, in this quarterly report, and then we'll see, and big thanks to Amanda and Catherine behind the scenes, driving production all the time, do great work. See if they can drop the link to the live stream where we took the data-driven report, and then we bring in leaders that got their fingers on the pulse of what's going on out in the market, and we see where the data and the market, in terms of out in the trenches, where it aligns, and then sometimes where there's some differences, and that powers some great conversations. So, folks, check out. We dropped the link right there in the chat. Check it out. It is a free resource. It comes out once a quarter, and as Marcia says, it delivers the data that you need, especially when you combine it with a lot of other signals and reports and research out there. Okay, now Marcia, a second ago I was talking about your infographics. Now, folks, if Marcia Williams is not on your radar, I'm telling you, you're missing out on the incredible supply chain infographic machine. Marcia delivers thought-provoking posts almost every day. I picked one out, Marcia, because I want to focus in on one of my recent favorites. Now, here you focused in on some of the visible and non-visible elements of supply chain management. And folks, if you're watching this via social media channel of your choosing, you can see it, right? And you can also see how to connect with Marcia, and you can see what's on top of the iceberg, including those penguins, and what's all up under the surface level. So I'm going to ask you, Marcia, when you think about what's visible, let's read off some of these for folks that may be listening to the replay. So Marcia had laid out for visible supply chain elements, on-time delivery to customers, product availability, cost reduction, and then on the invisible side, she's got things like effective S&OP, root cause analysis, workforce management, and many others. So, Marcia, the billion-dollar question, hang on a sec, the trillion-dollar question, because inflation and all. What's one of your favorite invisible aspects here?
My favorite invisible aspect is S&OP, to have an effective S&OP, because it is very challenging, right, with all the functions that involves, and to get that alignment and execute, I think is a major accomplishment. So I see S&OP like the largest or my favorite element that is invisible in supply chain.
Love it. And one of my favorite things, I was just talking with a new friend of mine last week, Eric. I'm trying to think of his last name. He's gonna kill me.
Eric Wilson. Yes, he's great.
Yes, Eric Wilson.
I know Eric. Yes.
And of course, he was talking about S&OP, and I loved how he talks about it's about a whole bunch more than one voice. You're bringing all the voices into the conversation, right? So you can plan the best path forward. And I love that. I love that not only because it's accurate for S&OP, but I love that on a broader business leadership basis as well. So well said. My hunch, that was going to be your favorite one in terms of the invisible stuff. I would just add one of my favorite things to talk about, we just did last week, and it comes to invisible components of supply chain management, is MRO, maintenance, repair, operations, right? Think spare parts out there, folks. I was hanging out with my friend Paul Noble and Justin Knoll and Mary Kate Love. Paul and Justin are with Verison, Marcia, and they specialize in helping organizations tackle MRO a whole bunch better, right? And I was picking up some data from them. Did you know that MRO spend has reached and already surpassed $900 million, and it's fast approaching $1 billion. And so much of that, much like most of the iceberg, is underwater and it's mismanaged, unfortunately, or it's in the blind spot. And there are millions of dollars of opportunity. There's millions of ways we can take friction out of our teams and give them better days by focusing on new ways of MRO. So I loved your infographic, and that was one of the first things that came to my mind. Now, Marcia, do you roll these out is it every day, or is it Monday through Friday? What's the cadence there?
It's from Monday through Friday, and I typically post around 7:30.
Okay.
Eastern time.
Eastern time. All right. So, folks, Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. It reminds me of picture pages as a kid. Picture pages came on like same time, Monday through Friday. It was a visual way of learning new things. We've got, folks, to make it easy. Let's see here. We've got the link to Marcia's invisible, iceberg infographic there. So check that out. You can also use that link to follow or connect with Marcia so you don't miss these, because as Gino says, her posts are the bomb. That's right, Gino. I completely agree. And by the way, hello, Leah Luton, aka Mom from Aiken, South Carolina. Great to have you here as always. Okay. So Marcia, good stuff. Keep the infographics coming. And I look forward to the next one. All right. So we have got some wonderful guests here today, don't we, Marcia?
Yes. Very important. I love what they are going to talk about.
I'm with you. They're making the world a better place. They're kicking a big old dent and even a bigger dent every day with their mission and outcomes and how they're inspiring so many others. So with no further ado, I want to welcome in our extraordinary guests here today, starting with Nomsa VanderWal, Managing Executive Director with the Luton Commission, and the one and only, my dear friend, an OG member here of the Supply Chain Now family, Jenny Froome with the Africa Supply Chain Excellence Awards. Hey, Jenny, how are you doing, my friend?
Very well. That swoosh never gets boring.
It never does. Great to see you. And Echo, I've heard so much about you. Welcome in. How you doing?
Great. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right. So, Marcia, before we jump in, I got to give a shout out to, let's see. First off, Faziab via LinkedIn. Great to have you here. Let us know where you're tuned in from. And Jenny, you'll recognize this name, Gary Smith.
Hey, Gary.
Talking about OG, Gary Smith from Jekyll Island, Georgia. Gary, we got to get reconnected. I love your blog articles you've been putting out there. Gosh, you've got a wealth of experience. So great to see you, Gary. Look forward to catching up. Okay, so this is where we're going to start, Marcia, Jenny, and Echo. We got so much to get to here today, but I want to start with a fun warm-up question, right? I have not done nearly as much traveling as I would like to this year, right? For a couple different reasons, but gosh, some of y'all sure have. And I want to ask each of you one of the coolest places you've been this year so far. And Echo, I've got a little hunch you may be making that coolest trip now, but what's one of the coolest places you've been to this year, Echo?
Well, in April, I actually got invited to Greece to speak at a conference with other hospitals in the African continent. And I actually met Jenny on that trip. We had a Zoom call, and she invited us to go to the SAPEX conference in Cape Town. And so I got to take some of our staff for the first time in the airplane. That was super fun. And then they had not been to Cape Town before. And when they got to Cape Town, there's one thing they wanted to do. We were up on Table Mountain and they saw Robben Island and they said, please, can you get us there? We learned about that in school. We want to go. So it was really fun just to see them enjoy something that was pretty close to home, but they'd never been able to visit before.
Oh man, Greece and then Cape Town, both in the same year. I am so jealous. And Robben Island, is that right, Jenny? Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
what an important historical place to visit. And of course, Table Mountain. It was raining when we were there last time, Jenny. We didn't get to hit the wonderful top of Table Mountain, but next time, I promise. Jenny, that's going to be tough to beat what Echo shared, both Greece and Cape Town. What about you?
It is. Well, I can match Cape Town, which is always epic. But last month, I was lucky enough to go to Kigali in Rwanda, which is somewhere I had been before. But I must say, in the 8 years since I was last there, the change that has happened in a very good way in the country is amazing. And one quick story: on the last Saturday of every month, they have a thing that's called Umuganda, which is a community project. Everyone is encouraged to do something to benefit their local community. And as a result of which, a lot of people do cleaning around their local area. And it is one of the most spotlessly clean cities anywhere in the world that I've been to. It's amazing.
Wow. Well, going back to the first part of your response, and I learned this from you just last week as we were catching up kind of impersonal, because Rwanda's rebound from years and years of civil war and unfortunately genocide, and there were so many heartbreaking stories that came out of there for years. It warms my heart, and I cannot wait to visit Rwanda next time we're with you, maybe. But really fascinating and so great to hear of its incredible rebound.
It's amazing.
It must be. And I'm going to have to get pictures from you too, Jenny. All right, Marcia. All right, so from Greece to Cape Town to Rwanda to the upstate of New York. Where's one of the coolest places you visited this year?
This year, we had the great opportunity that we went all, like we are 5, and we went to Argentina. And there we also met with my parents, my sister and her family. So it was a lot of fun because we were celebrating that my dad was fine again after a lot of time in the hospital, and it was a severe situation, but everything went well. So we were very happy to go all together. We were 10 people there.
Wonderful.
That is wonderful, Jenny. And Marcia, Godspeed to your dad for fighting through. I bet you're a fighter much like him, is my hunch based on what I've seen. And your family hails from Argentina. Is that right, Marcia?
We originally from Uruguay that borders Argentina. So that's why we went there, because it was a short trip that my dad was able to make.
Okay.
Short distance.
We're going to have to dive more into the stories, but it sounds like great family times abound in so many different ways. So I appreciate y'all sharing, Marcia, Jenny, and Echo. We've got a great, and that's just tip of the iceberg. We're going to use the iceberg theme throughout the conversation today, Marcia. We've got a lot to get into. And Jenny, before we learn more about Echo and the Luton Commission, I want to set the table a bit here, right? As I understand it, the Luton Commission first hit your radar via the people. I think you had some dear friends at the People That Deliver in Daba in Bangkok. Is that right, Jenny?
Yeah, it's a classic story of community, this. Joe Ruiz, who was at the Global Indaba that was held in Bangkok by People That Deliver, alerted me, and alert sounds so negative, but it's actually really positive. He told me all about the Luton Commission. And originally I kind of thought, oh yeah, it can't be this great. And the rest, I would like to say, is absolutely history, because it really is that great. So Echo came and spoke at the SAPEX conference, and everyone was bowled over by it. We were able to encourage her to submit the work that they've been doing to the Africa Supply Chain Excellence Awards, and we'll talk about that in a bit.
We are. And you know what? I think I've got an image. You speaking of the Africa Supply Chain Excellence Awards. Look at that wonderful group of happy supply chain leaders, business leaders that are changing how business gets done. So tell us, before we get into more of Echo's story, tell us about the Africa Supply Chain Excellence Awards.
Sure. It's basically, it's very simple. The ethos is to celebrate supply chain excellence across Africa. We hear so many great stories about supply chain success all around the world, and Africa tends to be ignored a bit, or people think that we can't do stuff, and we really can. And the objective of the awards is to be done by the industry for the industry. So it's supply chain practitioners actually putting it together to be able to highlight some of the amazing things. Ordinary people, or no supply chain professional is ordinary, I think, that extraordinary people are doing extraordinary things. It's in its third year, and you've been a great supporter of it. Thank you very much, Scott. And we're going from strength to strength. This year was incredible. We had over 30 finalists, which was a really hard task. Our judges had to work really hard. But in the end, the Luke Commission was rewarded with the Judges Spotlight Award, as well as the Technology Information Systems Award. So they really did a bit of a clean sweep.
Yes.
Which was super exciting.
All right. So the Judges Spotlight Award and the Technology Award, two prestigious awards from the third year ASCEA. And we're going to dive into that. But before I do, hey, T-Squared, good nourishment so far. Bring it on. Hey, stay tuned. We're getting to the good stuff here in a second. T-Squared, appreciate you holding down the fort for us on YouTube. And Marcia, before I circle back around to Echo, one of the themes Jenny was talking about there was these invisible parts of the world, right? Whether you think of geographically, whether you think of from a people standpoint in terms of functional areas, I think sadly a lot of folks can be more invisible. Your general thoughts, and especially as the importance of that we all have of shining a big spotlight so that we bring more folks into this conversation, this global conversation we're having. Your thoughts are, Marcia?
Yes, I think it's great to have this opportunity, right? To listen what others are doing in very challenging conditions.
Yes.
So I think it's ideal for us to learn from that, because supply chain challenges, we see them, right? Or we, as Jenny was mentioning, normal or ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So we see the results, but not all goes behind.
Yes.
So this is a great opportunity, and there are so many challenges. So great opportunity, as I mentioned, to learn from that.
Yes, there's no shortage of work we've got to do. So bringing in Echo from the Luke Commission. So Echo, if you would, first off, congrats for, as Jenny mentioned, what was a verb you used? She kind of took all the great awards. Well, you used a verb there, Jenny, that I'm missing. Anyway, yeah, clean sweep, I think. A clean sweep, not a verb. Don't check me on my English or my grammar call outs. But Echo, congrats on the awards, the Judges Spotlight and the Technology Award. Let's start with your why. Why did you found the Luke Commission? And if you would, then tell us about what the organization does.
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. And thanks, Jenny and Marcia and Scott. When I was young, I grew up in a family that was poor, but what our parents did very well is they always told us the sky was the limit. And when I was 8 years old, I felt called to go overseas and work in healthcare in Africa specifically. And they always encouraged that calling and that passion. And I didn't know that at the same time I was growing up in the Pacific Northwest. My husband was growing up in North Carolina, and he also had a similar calling and passion. And then we met, and we ended up going to medical school. And he is an internist and pediatrician. And my background is in surgery and pediatrics. I'm a PA. But when he was finishing his residency, we were introduced to someone in Eswatini. And so we flew over to Eswatini for the first time, first stamp on the passport in 2004. And we landed in the country with the highest HIV infection rate in the world. And it was really shocking because people were dying everywhere. Every house we went into, there was somebody in their 20s and 30s and 40s dying. And at the time, the average lifespan was 39 years of age. So we went there and felt called to go back. And in 2005, we packed up, we had triplets and a 2-month-old son. We packed them up and we moved to Eswatini, and we've lived there for the last 20 years. It's home for us. The king has given us citizenship in Eswatini, so we're really, really grateful and blessed. It's a people and a country that we love, and really grateful to be able to share about our experience there in the last 20 years.
Okay. Before we prompt you what else y'all do, let's start with that story. So, folks, if you struggle with geography much like I do, Eswatini is in South Africa. It's let's see here. It's just to the east, further east from South Africa, kind of northeast of South Africa, but way down in the southern part of the continent. Jenny, let's just start with your why, her why, and that story. Triplets and a newborn, if I heard that right. Jenny, comment on her why, Echo's why.
Just keep listening is all I can say, because the why just becomes so much more. And one has to wonder why the why was ever there, because there is a reason.
Wow.
Because the work that these people have done and are doing is absolutely astronomical.
And if I also heard Echo correct, when they first got to Eswatini, 39 years old was the life expectancy. Think about that for a second, folks. 39.
In 2004.
Wow, that's just it's
mind blowing.
It really is. I'm a loss for words. Marcia, we heard of Echo's why there. Comment on that, and then we're going to unpack what Luke Commission does.
Well, I love the story, because they saw that the situation, and it is a why that goes beyond herself, and her family. So it's very impressive.
That's right, Marcia. The whole family is doing something about it, right? Here, some 20 years later. So, Echo, circling back to you, because I really want to give our audience a really good idea of what y'all do. And I stole a couple of graphics from y'all's website, and I love this. Lifting up underserved communities, limitless compassion, and cutting-edge approaches to reach every last one. And that every last one is capitalized. I bet it's part of y'all's mantra, is my hunch. But tell us in a nutshell what the Luke Commission does, Echo.
Well, when my husband and I first arrived, we were actually the only healthcare professionals, and we worked with a local team of 20 for the first 8 years. We traveled literally to every chiefdom. It's a small country. We have dust on our shoes from every chiefdom. And we learned so many things during those 8 years. We learned that people don't have money for transport, to board buses, to go to hospitals. We learned that people want to be treated with compassion. They want to be loved first and foremost. And the third thing that we learned is that supply chain unreliability was one of the biggest reasons why people didn't go for healthcare. So literally at that time, the UN was saying that if something drastic doesn't change by 2030, Eswatini would be considered statistically extinct.
Wow.
And then you find out supply chain is a major part of that equation. So after those 8 years, we were able to buy a large piece of land in the center of the country, and the organization grew dramatically after that once we established a permanent home there. And we now employ 700 staff. Last year, our team treated 300,000 patients, and everywhere from community health all the way to specialty and tertiary care. We do hip implants, all kinds of specialty services that we've just grown into over the years. You see the needs in the data. And over the last 20 years, we've built a set of business operations tools, digital system, which we call Luvelo, which means compassion in Eswatini. During COVID, we took care of 90% of our ICU cases in the country, and we built one of the continent's largest PSA oxygen production plants in 52 days. Yes, it was crazy. I still know it's a miracle. And it was finished just 20 days before the third wave started, and cut our case fatality rate in our country in half, because up until that point, we were 100% dependent on South Africa for oxygen. And we've done a lot of other things, as well as established a snake bite program, because we were losing so many people to the feared black mamba in our country. And I'm really excited because our snake bite season ends on August 31st. So in just a couple weeks, it's going to end. And this is the first year in recorded history in Eswatini we have not had a snake bite death. And so most of what we have done, to be frank with you, and I'm not stroking you supply chain experts' backs, It has been off of a backbone of strong supply chain, because what we found is the poorest and most vulnerable will get where they need to go when they need to be there if they know there's reliability of supply chain. But for instance, if they don't know there's going to be anti-venom when they go to the hospital, when they get bitten, they don't even try because they aren't sure of the outcome. So it's been really, really exciting to really just apply some basic international best business practices in an area where people were dying for reasons that didn't need to happen, and see tremendous outcomes. And obviously, you know, the team of 700 is just playing a massive role in a fairly small country. It's a big team. They're doing things that, yeah, I think we're all just really excited to be part of.
All right, Echo, I wish we had 3 hours to dive into just that last response. Really, it deserves it. And, you know, Kevin L. Jackson, I always steal this word that he used called being consequential, right? Living a consequential life. Echo, you and your family, goodness gracious, you've taken that to like the 10th degree, and the impact you're having on not just Eswatini, but I imagine you're inviting folks from other parts of the world to come in, benchmark what you're doing so they can go out and help their own communities. Marcia and Jenny, I'm gonna get y'all's response in just a second. I'm gonna share some outcomes, but Echo, I hope you update your parents on all of that and then some as you're making a wonderful visit, because as I shared with you, the sky is the limit. And however they prompted you to lean in a big, bold way to go out and change the world, man, we need to document their parenting practices. Y'all check this out. This is some of, we all love numbers around here. This is also from the Luton Commission website. Our impact in 2023, it says 300,000 VIPs, very important patients. I think those are the folks you actually serve. I understand that right, Echo. Yes. She mentioned 700 staff members, 97% from the local country of Eswatini. Did I say that right, Echo?
Eswatini.
Eswatini. Yeah. My apologies. 1,300 over 1,300 mobile outreaches, almost 11,000 cervical cancer screenings, 75 orthopedic surgeries, over 1,100 babies delivered.
Well, that's never happened before.
I'm back.
Hello.
We've got some new redundancy around here. My apologies, folks. Goodness gracious, I'm fighting my technology. So finishing that point, I think 255 snake bite patients, many of which, Echo, probably would have unfortunately passed away had they not been treated and had the supply chain not delivered the anti-venom that is needed. Is that right, Echo? Would you say that?
Yes, you have got it. And it changes the equation big time when it comes to snake bites. Okay.
All right. So Jenny, Jenny and Marcia, I've covered a lot of ground and even popped in and popped out since y'all have had a chance to react to what Echo has shared. Let's start with Marcia. Marcia, you know, kicking a dent in the universe. This is kind of, everybody talks about that phrase. Echo is doing it. How do you respond to her mission?
It's an impressive accomplishment. All what Echo and the organization are doing. Very impressive. It's incredible, all the impact. And sometimes when Echo was mentioning about supply chain, yes, we talk about on time, in full, right, OTIF, the metrics, but we can see that actually another element that is visible is that it saves lives. And as Echo was mentioning, a key point is that we need to have a supply chain reliability in the supply chain. So.
And I would argue, great points, Marcia. Saving lives is really a higher calling. You know, what a noble, consequential mission. Jenny, what else? I know that this is a lot to absorb, and then try to find the right words to describe it. Jenny, what would you add?
I'll be quick because I want to get back to Echo, but I think one of the things that she so understates is just the sheer innovation that's embraced, to be able to tackle this anti-venom problem. They've introduced drones. And this is not just a case of introducing drones. It's all the education that has to go around it. And every single thing that they do requires the community to be educated around it. So it's not simply a case of putting new procedures and new fandangled technology in place. It's a case of thinking about how do we embrace and bring the community into this. And that's what they're doing so expertly, as well as everything else.
Yeah, well said, Jenny. Well said. So, Echo, got to get back to your story. I want to ask you this, and again, what you described, we could have a whole series around. We need to have like a videographer team following you and your family and your 700 staff members to really bring to the rest of the world what you're all doing. But let's talk about this, Echo. What's next for the Luton Commission? What would you like to accomplish through the end of the year and into 2025?
Well, it's always a case of adapting and being agile, especially in environments that are not really predictable. In 2018, we took care of 50,000 people. In 2023, we took care of 300,000 people. And we have done this all at no cost up until this point, which means we heavily rely on donors to keep our heads above water. But after COVID, the numbers, one of our advisors calls it a hyperbolic explosion, and that's exactly what's happened. The demand has just super exceeded our ability to be able to respond. In fact, during this 5-year period, we've only had a 6% increase in our donations. And so it's really forced us in a good way and challenged us to think beyond being donor funded exclusively. We're really, really grateful to SAPEX and to the African Supply Chain Excellence Awards for acknowledging and, just kind of putting on the international stage the digital system that we built. We just started building that because we had pain points of our own. We wanted to solve them, and this digital system started doing it, and that just bred more innovation. And so we're really grateful for that. So we're looking how we can take that to the international market. We're working on that, as well as some other innovations that we've built, because what we've learned over this time is that the applications are really helpful even in other industry segments beyond Eswatini and beyond healthcare. And so it has 3 main pillars: HR, supply chain, and service delivery. And the applications are being evaluated by key players in mining and other healthcare settings, the railway industry, and some other government agencies around the world. And so that's a major push for us because we really care about the people. We really want to be able to respond to their needs, but obviously we need to keep fueling the engine. So we're really, this is a growing and changing time for us, doing things differently to respond to the changes on the ground. But we're really grateful to be stretched once again, to just innovate. And we're really proud of our team. They really sold out to the mission and vision, and they flex when we need different things to happen. So that's what we're working on for the rest of 2024 and 2025. And I don't want to tell you data like 300% and 6% next time I talk to you. Those numbers don't match. So,
man, Echo, love it. We're gonna make sure we put a fine point in just a minute of how folks can jump in and help. Jenny, we didn't really harp on yet of the 700 staff members. A lot of them come from Eswatini. So not only are we having a big impact on improving healthcare, but we're creating jobs and living and, helping folks hopefully pay their bills and beyond. Jenny, your quick comment.
And succession planning, that's the whole thing, is creating a team so that the family don't have to do everything all the time. Their extended family, because that's what the team is, can do it too. And it's having that whole community of people. I think I've used the word community 10 dozen times. Sorry, everyone. But it's just an example of how important it all is.
I agree. And I think of all the conversations where community gets dropped 1,000 times, I really think this one is at the top of the list, because clearly Echo and her family love the community. They saw a need, and they have poured resources and leadership and taking a practical approach to improving the community across Eswatini. Marcia, your quick comment before we circle back and have a couple quick questions for Echo and Jenny.
again, very impressive all what you have accomplished and the why and how you face the different challenges. So it clearly shows the impact
That's right.
that you are having and in the future, of course.
That's right. They rise to the challenge and they're ready for the next one. Really, really, very impressed. By the way, Shalako from Miami via LinkedIn, great to see you. Let us know what y'all think about this incredible story. And our friend Jeremy E. Simpson from Twitter, or X, I should say, is back. Jeremy, hope this finds you well. Looking forward to your comments here today. Okay, let's see here. Echo, we're going to make sure you touched on what your needs are. But I want to be really clear and issue the challenge out there. How can folks best support the Luke Commission? What are some of your biggest needs?
Well, we would love, we just really appreciate the opportunity from the Africa Supply Chain Excellence Award and from you, Scott, just to be able to highlight the story. We have not been good at marketing ourselves over the last 20 years. We're much better at being operationally quite mature, but not on this part. So we really appreciate the opportunity to do that. We would love to get to know anyone who's listening, who's interested more. Please go to lukecommission.org or Linktree at the Luke Commission. And we would love to know what you think about what's happening in Eswatini. The second thing, we still rely heavily on donations. So if you want to be part of our partner team, we would love to have you join us. We know that wherever you are, you're just as big a part of the equation as those of us who are on the ground. But what I really want to hit is if you have a business or you had a government or government department and you want to take a look at this now internationally award-winning software products that we've developed and some of the other innovations with their telehealth hubs, there's a lot going on that we're working on to drive social enterprise. We would love to have you be part of a broader business answer, not just to your business, but then to wrap back around that revenue to continue to serve the poorest and most vulnerable in Eswatini and beyond. We really believe we've seen it have tremendous impact and transformation. What is driving so many people coming to us is because we always have drugs and we always have commodities. It's back to supply chain again. And we believe that through technology and innovations and a commitment to putting the patient first, this combination can actually eliminate the supply chain challenges we have, particularly in the African context. And we believe it's time for us to shift gears. I'm sure Jenny says the same thing in the continent. We cannot have the same problems in the next decade that we've lived with for the past several decades. And so we're looking forward to using technology and innovation to drive transformational change in Africa and beyond. But thank you so much.
Hey, Echo, very well said. So lukecommission.org. Is that right, Echo? lukecommission.org? Yes. Okay, yes. Wonderful. And if y'all have any challenges, our team will make sure you get connected and get plugged into Eco's ecosystem. That's an interesting way to put it. Ramon from Minneapolis has better words than me. And Ramon, great to have you via LinkedIn. Amazing stories and humbling. It is humbling. And when we hear what Echo and the family and the whole team's doing, it makes me rethink how I've spent my Monday. Jenny, really, you're speaking of humble. You're way too humble. And I appreciate what you and the ASCEA team has been doing to really hopefully put the Luke Commission and stories of impact like that on more folks' radar and raise them up and give them accolades and the visibility that they need. More folks need to be more aware. So how can folks support the ASCEA and be a part of 2025, Jenny?
If you know of anybody doing extraordinary supply chain things in Africa, then tell us about it. I think Amanda's put our website link on there. Got a great website thanks to a lovely chap called Connor who does a brilliant job for us. And it's functional. We've got a contact form. Get in touch with us. If you feel like helping us and sponsoring, it's a not-for-profit, then that's also welcome too. But fundamentally, let us know about these amazing stories and we'll do the rest. We'll give them the platform to talk about themselves.
Love it. Oh, man. Marcia, that makes my whole week. How about you, Marcia? Between Jenny and Echo and what they do and the sheer numbers and the goodwill and the impact they're having, Marcia, makes my week, huh?
Yes, yes, this is very inspiring, and it shows us how you can do it, the huge impact that you are having. So it's
That's right.
very inspiring, impressive.
Very noble missions indeed. Okay, big thanks. We're going to see you back, Echo and Jenny. Thanks for sharing your story and your mission and your impact. And although you didn't present it as a challenge, I think it serves as a really important challenge to how the rest of industry can step up and help all parts of the world that can be invisible at times. So really grateful for what you do. Echo Nomsa VanderWal, Managing Executive Director with the Luton Commission. Thank you for being here, Echo.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Scott. Really appreciate you having me on.
You bet. Safe travels, and we'll see you again soon. And of course, my dear friend, the one and only Jenny Froome with Uphaven Management and Africa Supply Chain Excellence Awards. Always a pleasure. Thank you for bringing Echo to us.
Thank you very much. And everybody, just remember, this amazing woman did all of this with triplet sons. It's amazing.
It is. Thank you, Jenny and Echo. We'll see y'all soon.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Oh, so true, Marcia. So true. What a great point to wrap on. So also, folks, we encourage y'all, before I forget, hey, connect with Echo on LinkedIn, right? We're dropping their link there to Echo and, of course, to Jenny. Connect with them both. And Jeremy sums it up. Wow. That's kind of where I am, Marcia. Just wow. But Marcia, and folks, I don't think I'm getting everybody's comments. It could have been related to a little tech snafu I had earlier, so I apologize for that. But Marcia, we got more work to do, right?
Yes.
And we are starting. It's kind of tough. I got to get myself together to get back into in business mode. I'm kind of just so stuck on that story, huh?
Yes. It was incredible. So I know we had to make this transition.
That's right. We got to make a hard shift and go off road here. But love Echo and Jenny and what they're doing. So let's switch gears here. Let's talk, folks, supply chain cybersecurity here on The Buzz today for August 19th, 2024. Now, we're doing so via the Supply Chain Now blog article. Now, folks, by the way, we've been rolling out a bunch of new blog articles, show summaries, and other written content via the Supply Chain Now website. We'll drop a link to that right there in the chat. But it's simple. Go to supplychainnow.com and click on blog and news, and you'll find it at your fingertips. But back to supply chain cybersecurity. Try to say that 10 times fast, Marcia. Wow. Here's a factoid that won't surprise anybody. According to the Identity Theft Resource Center, the number of organizations targeted by supply chain cyber attacks skyrocketed by over 2,600%. So we're talking over 2,600% between 2018 and 2023. And just last week, Marcia, on more of a personal basis, the LA Times and other outlets reported that hackers may have stolen the Social Security numbers and other personal data on every single American. Man. So whether we're talking supply chain or other areas of your cyber hygiene approach, we suggest 3 simple strategies. Number 1, be proactive. Hey, be solely reactive at your own peril. Number 2, choose partners wisely. Hey, that ecosystem that we're referencing earlier, the ecosystem is only as strong as the weakest link. And we encourage you to bake cybersecurity discussions into all onboarding processes and other critical touch points. Thirdly, obvious, stay informed. Like so much else, the cyber environment is swiftly evolving. Threats are not only growing in numbers, but growing in what we like to call creative complexity as well. But Marcia, when you think about supply chain cybersecurity, it's kind of a scary story, scary area. We got to lean into it so we can do something about it. Your thoughts there, Marcia?
Yes, I like, Scott, in particular, the second point that you mentioned about choosing your partners wisely, because in supply chain, there's a lot of collaboration involved. So we need to have the right partners to do that. like Jenny and Echo were mentioning. We need to have the different pieces working together. So that point is critical.
Well said. Well said. So, folks, we're dropping the link to the article. Let us know what you think, though. It looks like we're getting some other comments there. I think Jeremy, this is good. Jeremy says, I just assume I'm hacked. That's an important mindset, folks, right? He talks about the value of standalone systems. Good stuff, Jeremy. Appreciate you sharing. Also, Amanda's dropping another link that I referenced from the LA Times. I think this is hackers may have stolen the social security numbers of every American. Here's how to protect yourself. So check that out as well. All right. So from cybersecurity, Marcia, to some good news. This is going to be a better story. This is kind of like, this isn't quite as good as Echo's story, but this is good news here. As reported by CFO Dive, more women are breaking into the CFO office. In fact, the number of women appointed as CFOs globally reached a 5-year high in the first part of 2024, according to data provided by Russell Reynolds Associates. Now, the firm tracked 163 CFO appointments, of which 44 were women. That's a 33% year-over-year increase. And they really call out the tech industry in particular, which has about 38% of its incoming CFOs being women. The data also showed more CFOs are choosing to retire. I don't blame them. It's tough out there with year-over-year and 5-year highs in the numbers. Also, though, kidding aside, creating opportunities, right? Now, on a broader note, we've got plenty more work to do, right, Marcia? We got plenty more work to do. But a 2023 study by S&P Global Market Intelligence showed that the proportion of women holding all board and C-suite roles in all companies that make up the Russell 3000 index, well, that rose to 21.9% in 2021, which was up significantly from 9.5% in 2010. So more than doubled there in about 11 years or so. Marcia, financial leadership is part of your expertise. And what's your take on this? I mean, it's good to see the numbers trending in the right direction, but it doesn't take anything away from more work that we've got to do. What are your thoughts on Marcia?
Yes, this is very encouraging news because the progress is significant. And yes, there's still a gap, but we can see that we are making progress. So that's the good part. And in positions that are very important because in the C-suite. So great news, Scott. And I think we need to celebrate the progress and keep working.
Celebrate the progress and keep working. I'm with you. It's like the late, great, one of a kind, Sandra McQuillan, who one of my favorite exchanges with her, kind of along what you were sharing there, was we cross the finish line and we celebrate for a minute, but the next race is right around the corner. So well said there. Okay, so we're going to finish, folks, on a much lighter and fun note. And I think, Marcia, we've got a live snapshot of the current status of my wallet, right? Oh, it's right here. It's right here. It's been burning. Inflation's just tearing it apart for years now, it feels. So, but there's good news, folks. Check this out. Inflation and price increases seem to have cooled just a bit. According to this report from our friends at CNBC, inflation here in the U.S. dropped below 3% in July 2024. And that's the first time it's dropped that low, below 3%, in more than 3 years. Hence my burning wallet. In fact, while most prices are simply increasing at a slower rate, that's an important concept that we all need to wrap our heads around, right? Prices largely are still going up. They're just increasing at a slower rate, okay? But some data shows that some prices have outright decreased. That's good news. Airline tickets and gas are amongst those items cited. So, Marcia, my apologies, Marcia. In your neck of the woods, you're in the upstate of the state of New York, right? Where have you started to see any inflation relief, and where do you see it?
Gas prices.
Okay.
Now they are going down. So we are at about 3 with 50 something cents a gallon. And before it was over 3 with 60 cents.
Okay.
So we have seen a decrease there.
Okay, wonderful. Hey, I'll take every cent we can get back, whether it's gas or anything else. Check out some of these things here. This is, and folks, you aren't going to be able to see this. This is kind of CNBC's version of all you need to know about deflation in a couple of charts. You'll see there, apples have been one of the things that have come down the most. And for a while there, Marcia, apples, you could get gold bars for cheaper than you could get Granny Smith apples. I'm not sure what it was, but suits have come down. Sports costs have come down. Let's see, potatoes. One thing I saw, and y'all can check this out. We're dropping a link to the chat, to these graphics in the chat. But one thing I've seen, Marcia, is the beef aisle, right? For a stretch there, we stopped eating steaks because beef was just so ridiculously expensive. Last weekend, first time in a long time, we went out and got some ribeyes, because we've seen in our neck of the woods, we've seen that kind of come down. And I was able to get, anytime you can get it like below $30 for something that might feed the family, man, sign me up, Marcia, right?
Yes.
All right, folks, check out that deflation breakdown right here. All that in one chart. So hopefully that continues so our bucks go further. And of course, I should say globally, Marcia, we've seen great strides in wrangling inflation back in somewhat of control. So hopefully that's a continued trend. Marcia, what an incredible episode of The Buzz here today. Still blown away with what we heard from Echo and Jenny. I want to definitely encourage y'all, folks, check out the Luke Commission. I think you can go to lukecommission.org. We also dropped the link there in the chat. If you're in a position to be able to support, as my dear friend Greg White used to say, give big, give small, just give, right? Just give what you can. But Marcia, really appreciate you being here. Enjoyed your perspective throughout The Buzz. We included a way that folks can track you down. How can folks connect with you, Marcia, and all those infographics and all the other cool things that you do?
First, thank you so much, Scott, for having me in this episode because it was amazing. The story was so great. So to connect with me, I always on LinkedIn, so folks can reach out directly there.
It's just that easy. Remember, folks, patented world-class supply chain infographics from Marcia Williams every weekday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. Thereabouts. Close. Don't use your stopwatch, but it'll be close. So also we're dropping a link so folks can connect with Marcia on LinkedIn that way as well. As well as, folks, if you want to learn more about all things related to supply chain now, our programming community, you name it, we've dropped a link to that as well. So check it out. But folks, as we wrap here today, I'm still thinking through all of the great, noble, deeply impactful work that the Luke Commission is doing, right, in Eswatini in Southern Africa. And, I really, it makes me think about where I'm spending my time and what I'm doing day in and day out, right? So I think for me, it brings, Marcia, really a fine point to a phrase we like to close with every day as we issue a challenge to others, right? And I can think of no better show than to share with everybody and challenge y'all out there to be like Echo and the team at the Luke Commission. Do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. And we'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.